Thank you for having me. So, just to give you a little bit about me. So I'm Ross Waterston. I've kind of done far too much. I feel a bit like that weird guy from, what is it, Guy Fieri, been around the restaurant business for ages, been around IT, did lots of data projects, lots of migrations, fell into doing data, and now I'm kind of stuck doing it. It's probably the right thing. As I say, the two sides of what I do, sorry, go back, is, oh, it's gonna be one of those days. Two sides. I've got Geordie Intelligence, which is the YouTube channel side, where all the stuff that we're going to talk about today is on that channel. There's links there to go and see everything. And then obviously we've got the professional services side, Geordie Consulting. That's me, what I do. So obviously everyone in the room kind of is aware of Microsoft's view of BI. This is what Microsoft's BI plan was, or is, or should still be. Kind of got data, we're going to curate it somehow, model it somehow, and then present it somehow. Yeah. So for me, one of the things I always wanted to do with Geordie Intelligence especially was to take away and refuse to use the default data sets that Microsoft provides. So AdventureWorks, I still remember when it was Northwinds, that kind of thing. I don't want to use it. Kind of the flaws that are in the data are the flaws that are in the data. So I've always tried to get real world data sets that make sense to clients. The Parkrun data set actually really fits in. So for so many clients that I start working with, it's that I've got this guy or girl who produces a report every day from an Excel spreadsheet that comes from somewhere, and then they send the insights out, and that's what happens. So what can we do to change that was kind of the view that I started with. This might have gone a little bit too far, so I'll apologize now if you feel this has gone down that whole rabbit hole and we're not in Never Never Land anymore or wherever it is. But that was the point. It was always around doing that. So the second and third pushes that we did was around embedding the idea of a life cycle in everything you do, because that's why we're here, isn't it? So you're not just going to go, well, we're going to do something. CI/CD, or CDCI, I can never remember which way around it goes. It's always just seems to do my head in. Anyone who does Power BI development day in, day out, oh, here's the new whiz-bang report. It's great. And they go, oh, that's amazing. But, yeah, so it's kind of that next step. So what do we need to do it? And I come from IT, so it's like ITIL was where I grew up, the whole plan, do, check, act. But you look at all the stuff, Prince to kind of, pick one, there's a cycle to them all. It's kind of all the same thing. So whatever you do, you're going to have a cycle. Make sure it's embedded in your business. This is where I've gone with this Parkrun report. So version 1, I'm sorry, I've lost it. I don't know where it is anymore. It's probably some Excel spreadsheet that is somewhere. I can't remember where it was. Version 2, as I say, this whole PDF is available on our GitHub if you want to download it. And all the links are clickable, so you can see kind of the Jesmond Dene Parkrun, which is my Parkrun report, which then led into all of Newcastle upon Tyne. And then we wanted to get, Newcastle upon Tyne is now part of the Northeast Combined Authority. So there's actually public health benefit from actually bringing all that together. V4 ended up just one of the lovely bugs of Power BI, where it works perfectly in Power BI Desktop, but it will not refresh in the service. Refreshes in Power BI Desktop, works fine, go through, unpack it all, and same errors, but different tables, but it just doesn't work. So I fixed it with V5. But as I say, they're all there. The abandoned one, I've kind of used the V5 stuff to push it back in. So it's all still available because the links are being used by people. These are all publicly published Power BI reports, which none of you should be doing. Please never do publicly published Power BI reports. There's no security on them. You are giving access to everybody to do stuff. Obviously for this is all publicly accessible data anyway. That's why I'm doing it, but please don't. Okay. Said the warning bits, everyone's happy. I'm not going to get tarred and feathered and thrown out of the building or something. Okay. So the plan, how does it work for us now? So to do the main ingestion, we've had to use Power Automate Desktop. Now, I could have used something like Python, Beautiful Soup, stuff like that, but we're supposed to be a Microsoft shop, so kind of Power Automate Desktop makes sense. Parkrun themselves, they keep talking. They're going to have an API access. Honestly, I spent a lot of time during COVID looking at their API stuff. There's API V1 and V2, and neither of them are live. Neither of them actually work. They don't do anything. So it's a screen scrape, I'm afraid, from the event page and from each result. And of course, they've got the happy, joy side of, oh, it looks like you're trying to screen scrape, terminating your access. So the flow, basically, it just kind of opens a page, does it, and then waits 5 minutes, and then opens the next page, does it, waits 5 minutes. It's annoying, it's slow, but it works. I could, in theory, go and try and fine tune that gap and make it work some more. It's just annoying. We've then got to the point where we've got spreadsheets for each event, two spreadsheets for each time an event takes place, plus a full event history one for each one. So for reference, I did mention a bit of a rabbit hole here. There's currently 19,770 spreadsheets being used to build the report pack on a premium per user license. So that's well, on a premium per user. And to be honest with you, you could probably get away with it on a pro license if you really wanted. Sorry, I know I'm supposed to be pushing Fabric, but this is one of those where you go, I can't. It works, and with what you're doing here, because for lots of clients as well, they go, oh, we've got this new platform, we want all the historic stuff. And I've done enough where we've had to, well, we're going to do a migration and we're going to put some horrible hokey table somewhere in the database that you can then use to report historic information. We can use their daily dump of spreadsheets that they will have lying about somewhere on someone's computer, and we can build everything we want. So what we've got is we've got that everything goes through, builds the semantic model, does it all. Okay. The way it's managed is with one SharePoint list that handles kind of everything. Everything runs from a simple SharePoint list because, again, I'm just lazy like that. It works, it does it kind of, even though I'm even looking at it going, oh, it could be a lot simpler. I've kind of really made it overly complicated now, Ross. So I spend too much time with this, I'm sure. Simple way though, from the Power Automate desktop side, it goes through, it gets the control list from SharePoint, just goes through and does a couple of functions. Effectively, the first function is going through and pulling the full event history. From the event history, it says, well, I now need to pull this many events. In practice, what we do is we pull the last 5 events always. But if you've got an exceptional one you want to pull, just delete them from the SharePoint library, and it'll pull those ones next time it does a refresh as well. Okay, so it's kind of going through, always get the last 5 and any exceptionals as well. From there, we then use the Power Automate service online to do kind of a park runners pull and a volunteers pull, because volunteers are really important in Parkrun. It's just as important. These people make it all work. And then you combine the two. And because there's about a 10-to-1 ratio, we use the runners to trigger the pull to get the people and then their individual records against each event. Okay, simple. Have I gone too far with this? Is this just ridiculous that I did all this? As I say, at the moment, we're not using the people and volunteers. So what we've got is kind of a summary. So if you run multiple events, we've got a summary for you in terms of, well, what was your best finishing position? What was your slowest? And again, it's just because when we're looking at what we've got with this, it's a bit ridiculous. So let's have a look now and see, what does this actually look like in the service? If you want to, or if there's any questions at this point before we stun silence. Okay. All right. So here's our report. Oh, sorry. I need to stop this, don't I? It's going to work now. It's going to come back. There we go. There we go. Okay. So here's our Northeast Parkruns overview. Okay. So we've got nearly 2 million finishes in terms of people who've crossed the finish line. Of those, how many of you do Parkrun? So, okay, so it's not complete. What's he talking about? Because Parkrun makes no sense if you don't do Parkrun. People cross the finish line and then don't get a time. I mean, what kind of weirdos are they? So we've got a difference there. And then we've obviously got a number of volunteers. We've got when was the last event, when was the previous, the variance against them. We've gone with, I don't know, are we still allowed to do male and female? I can't know what we're doing. You kind of get shouted at no matter what you do. You can see we've had a nice gap here in 2020. I don't know if you know, something happened in 2020 till 2021. It was a bit odd. So we had all that. The point was always to try and piece together, what do we hear from Parkrun? So one of the things that Parkrun will always talk about is, as a measure of the inclusivity of Parkrun, how it's changing over time, the average age grade of finishers should go down. So the chart on the bottom right is kind of showing us that it's going down. Average age grade percentage, that kind of whatever age you are, even though Parkrun is not a race, you can always compare your age grade percentage with your best friend, and hopefully it's better than theirs. But we're not competitive in any way, shape, or form. But it's allowed us to piece all of that together, again, from our 19,700 spreadsheets. And then from there, we can look and we can say, oh, well, show me what goes on in Newcastle. And it will then show us, here are the Newcastle parkruns. And I can say, oh, well, what's that really good parkrun in Newcastle called? It's called Jesmond Dene Parkrun, by the way. So we could choose, who wants that? He's a terrible person, that one. He's terrible. And we can then go and keep drilling on down and see, look at an individual event. Again, we can see the age grade percentages. So again, below average. So we should have, based on this, more blue on the left-hand side of the charts to the right. It all works. It does it all. So for all of this, which has come from these simple things, I'll show you what one of those looks like. So this is kind of the event history table that we're using as one of the sources. And then if you go into a particular event, these are the sources that are used as the screen scrapes from there. So from these kind of spreadsheets, everything is coming through into it. But from a life cycle perspective, which is kind of the point of all this, wasn't it? When you get through and you're doing these kind of things, we get other things. So I'm always interested in this. This is the charts I like and that whole process of building through it. But I've got a friend who's one of the Parkrun ambassadors, and every time he looks at it, he's like, I want to see the people. So we go and we have a look at people and we say, oh, what's going on? We can see, like, based on their run club membership and their volunteer club membership, these are important things for parkrunners, you know, what's going on. But then we can see in terms of our top 10s, we've got data quality issues, which is, again, why I love real world data sets. So we've had, a few weeks ago, we had some lovely person who seems to put their wrong date of birth down. So their age grade percentage was 600%. So, you know, what do we need to do? Potentially, is this a UDF option that we might be able to go through and say, oh, exclude this person, or do we do this? Because it's broken that whole report. So, but that's a data issue. It's nothing to do with us. We've pulled it through. I've checked the thing. It is there. It's about 3 or 4 weeks ago now that this lady did it. And I think she's put 19 something as opposed to 2000 and something for her date of birth. And that's what's happened. But she is absolutely incredible. Yeah, and 100+ years old, and she did it in, I think it was 30. So it's about 30 minutes on quite a hilly park run. So yeah, it could be there. You know, we've got all sorts of things to say. We've got our volunteers, which is important, actually being able to track, see what's going on. So yeah, I admit I might have gone a little bit too far with this. This might have become a bit of a passion project where it's just like, oh, what happens about this? But this is the sort of thing that we can do. So we can kind of bring whatever data a business has lying around and actually really expose and get the value out of it with a tool like Power BI. And that is really the goal of what we're doing, isn't it? So all too often we get this, big data, we've got to get more. It's not getting more, it's about getting more out of what you have today. So we've taken simple spreadsheets as sources, just mashed them up together and put them in. And if you want to know the sizes for all it's about 500 megabytes of spreadsheets, which goes into, it's about a 40 megabyte Power BI file. So yeah, if you want, you can probably get away with Pro. The only reason why it wouldn't be Pro or it's in pre-PU at the moment is for that third data flow that combines the two. But you could put that into the Power BI model and then you'd be able to do it as Pro as opposed to whatever it is. If you wanted to do and expand this infinitely, you probably want to use more nodes to process to run the Power Automate desktop side. But again, the control list could still use, and you just use node 1, node 2, node 3, or whatever in your in your SharePoint control list, which I haven't shown you, have I? Do you want to see the control list? You say no. You can say no, I'm still going to show you. So it's, as I say, it's really simple what we've got. And there are things in there that I know I've put the wrong things in at times just because I was as part of my development cycle thinking, well, this is there. Do I need that? Do I not need it? Like we've got the GUID, which is the GUID for the data flow for each event. But that was what wasn't working, where I'd written a function that was calling a data flow, which works in the Power BI service. Sorry, in the Power BI desktop, so you do it in the service, it works, but the errors make you think it's not working, but you can't debug it because it's great. But we've pulled that all together and yeah, it runs. Okay, yeah. So the SharePoint list is what we're using as the source for what do we need to write and collect. Each of those goes through and they pull. So we've got in here, we've got a list of individual parkruns. So I create a folder for each one. And that's one of the things, well, we don't even need the folder. We could just put in the URL bit from the parkrun name and prefix that with that, then the event, and then or volunteer and a number. So again, you can keep iterating and improve whatever your plan is. You look confused, Johnny. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. We, yes, yeah. And so at the moment, I have to add it to the config list and create a SharePoint folder, which I mean, you know, I'm sure Patrick would just, yeah, just you know, be lazier. And if we do it, we can actually just add that because it's a URL. So all the events have got a really standardized process that allows it, or standardized string. We can use that, and it's less things for me then to record in that list as well. So I've kind of got the, and I actually used Copilot to get them to build me the list of County Durham parkruns and to get the latitude and longitude for them all. So if they're not right, it's Copilot. It wasn't me, because otherwise you've got to go to Google Map to then extract the latitude and longitude, which takes time. So it's a use case for Copilot as well. So Power Automate Desktop goes, opens each web page, does the screen create, yeah. So it does the full event history first. So like for Jesmond Dene, where it said, here we go, yeah. So it'll pull this one first for Jesmond Dene, for example. It says, right, there's 229, so we know 229, and it'll start at 1 and go through, well, are there any missing? In which case, I'll pull those, and then if it's in the last 5, I'll pull those as well. So just in case you need to update results or doing like that. And 5 feels like a good number. It could be different, and it's because it's trying to avoid it getting all, oh, it looks like you're trying to steal all our data and screen scrape it. We're going to blacklist your IP address for a while. So it works, but it takes about 2.5 hours at the moment to do just those 5 across the 26 results. So if you want to do it, as I say, I mean, I've got no problem in handing you over everything, and you can go and do it yourself. You don't even need to use Power BI, because if you've got your O365, you can do it all there. And I mean, I'm pretty sure now Power Automate Desktop is part of the core Microsoft suite. So if you're covered for that, sure, when they were bringing it through, they were saying that. But I know that because Microsoft licensing and these things is so great, to use Power Automate Desktop and have it read from the SharePoint list as a source, that's premium license. So we have to have a premium license for that, but it's one premium license because it's a physical bum doing the work, even though literally I go in, turn the computer on, press do, and kind of go away. And it just runs a little mini PC I've got, and I just leave it, and then it shuts itself down at the end. So it's kind of, as long as it's shut down after 3 or 4 hours, I know it's worked. I'm not lazy, just efficient. That's what he says, isn't it? Okay, so that works. Any other questions on that before we jump to the other side, the other topic? In theory, it will. And I mean, they've done it recently, where 9 months ago or so, they probably a year now, they decided that they shouldn't have event records because that was making parkrun seem like a race, and that was terrible. What little they know. So that caused problems, and I updated it. But then it's a case like with, even if you're doing this from a retail side, which is what this is, we might get to the point of saying, well, we've got our back catalog, we can bring that in with a data flow. Here's one, so here's the other set, and then we combine the two data flows in something else depending on what you want to do. And yeah, it'll always work. It's not an issue. And with these, when it happens, you go through and do it, and I can rerun the full refresh if I need to. In terms of doing County Durham, where we had to pull in County Durham, bear in mind there was a couple of thousand of those to go through. It took a couple of days for it to go through. And then there's one bug that I found that is in the data flow, in the Power Automate script still, which is if there aren't volunteers listed for that event, it throws an error. So I need to just fix that error handling, which is just me. And it's just, I haven't got around to it yet, because it's one of those where it's hit me 3 times in the 9,000 that we've pulled through. So it's not really a burning issue, but then it's happened 2 or 3 times with new stuff for a new event that just seems quite small and a bit, So I'll fix it, and I'm sure I'm going to carry on doing this because like all parkrunners, I'm not obsessive and I'm not into meaty stats in any way, shape or form, and I don't do anything like that. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah. How much easier with an API? I mean, from an API side, it would depend on what level of API they would give. I could imagine if they were to give us an API, yeah, I mean, Parkrun, they're very interesting. I've met the guy who does it all. I've met him, but then they've got very control. They've got some views about what they're going to do with the data, and they want to protect it, which is fair enough. But then at the same time, it's all public. It's all out there. So it's things like from a safeguarding side, they say, well, like junior parkruns, please don't put the full name of the child on it. You go to their junior parkruns here, it's full name of the child's on it. So, one of the things I'm saying, well, we can now bring in the juniors, but then do we need to do that where for the juniors, put in the first name in there, would a parkrun ID work? Should we obfuscate certain numbers in the parkrun ID so that you can still say, oh, that's my child? But then there's lots of things where they say they want to do, and it would be great if we got API access, but you might find, well, you're going to have to paginate it, and it'll be 1,000 or whatever it's going to be. And so it would come down to what level of API they're going to give you, how they're going to charge you back for that as well. Because at the moment, I'm just doing this all for free, not paying them anything. It would be nice if they would pick this up, because I think there's value add for it. We could do this around for whole of Manchester or the area around Manchester. We could do it for London boroughs, but it's just kind of, there's not the interest. And I think that's the problem. There's kind of, unless someone gets, oh, there's a burning issue we need to know, they won't do anything. But I know councils, NHS, they're all under pressure to show that citizens are doing more and are getting more health options available to them. Parkrun's back to being prescribed now by the NHS as well. But then how do we track it? How do we validate it? There's no thought. No one cares. Sorry, I didn't say that. They're just I suspect there's a lot more. There's a lot more going on with it. So I suspect there's other stuff more to do with the closed parkruns. Is closed the right term? I can't remember. Is that the right term? Closed, not open parkruns. So parkrun is a big thing in prisons. So prisoners are going and doing it. It's really good for them, but it's kind of one of those where, what do we do? So I think there's question marks if people started getting access to their data as to what they would find. And it is definitely one of those. Even with this, you start looking, going, it's a bit creepy. But I haven't put a user search in because that feels like that would be a bit weird, wouldn't it? Putting like, oh, I want to go and search. But again, it'd be, if you're going to do an API, you have those conversations, don't you? This is what you should be able to do. This is what you shouldn't do. How do we do it? So I'm kind of. So lots of them are multi laps, high numbers of multiple laps around things. But I was speaking to one, say my friend is one of our local ambassadors, and he goes and does them, and he said, oh, I was at one of the prisoners. Said, oh, one of the prisoners, he was on getting day release, and his family were coming to pick him up at 6 a.m. So, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? I want to go and do a park run. So they actually went and do a proper park run somewhere. Not tell you where, but that's what he wanted to do. He's kind of done it in things, but that's then really useful as part of that whole, because you're in micro running stuff. You're not in your normal civvies, as it were. So it's a great leveler. So it can be very useful for helping people reintegrate back into society. But yeah, anyway. I suspect there's a lot of those kind of things go on, and obviously it is a global system as well, so it's not just UK. So it is, we could put like the new Brooklyn Bridge Park run on here and suddenly pull that in as well. So then you get into other countries potentially with issues, or hey, where's that data resident? Yeah. Hey, where's all that data resident? Let's not. So I think that's kind of more what's going on with it. I think they've got a lot they need to sort out with that properly. But yeah, we can certainly do this lift and shift. It's not a huge problem with it. Yeah. So yeah. So there's, in terms of it, they're pretty structured because they're coming through from a screen scrape. So kind of, this is the structure of a file. So it's very standard. In terms of what I've done with, it's over here, isn't it? With the way it works is, let's go to my one, Jesmond Dene. I've written a function in the data flow that does all the processing of the Excel spreadsheet, because, and it's, to be honest with you, get that with anything trying to process Excel spreadsheets in, it's just a really inefficient structure. So the function does everything as it goes row by row through it. So it pulls from the event history table, it'll open that one spreadsheet, it will then convert that to put it into the table, and then it just appends those tables. You've then got the full list of participations. We build the 2 fact tables for participation, and then we build one for volunteering. And then we're bringing out from there the distinct list of users for the 2 of Parkrun IDs, bringing in the maximum name, because some people change their names over time, which causes problems. Again, gender, I have not seen numbers where genders have changed, but there's lots going on with it, and there's lots of rules to work through. But the business logic, which again, from the retail space, that's it, isn't it? It's that business logic is half the battle. The technical side is easy, and it is. It's you pull it through. When you're processing Excel spreadsheets like that, it's a case of, if you go through and follow the way the data flow tells you to do it, it will build the function anyway. If you use that, you then, because the issue is, and this was Chris Webb said this it suddenly made sense to me. So Power BI, when it's going through doing Power Query, it looks like it's going step by step from top down. It's not. So it's one function is being called, and then to do that function, you have to understand all the variables. So it's processing those variables. So you try and minimize that variable step list, is what we're doing with it. I can show you the data if you really want. It's not like, I'll show you offline, actually. It'd be easier, because probably I'm sure everyone doesn't want to see it all. Does everyone want to see it? No? Yeah? Oh, God. Prove you did it, Ross. Okay. So the way it is now, it's in data, isn't it? It should be data. Just out of curiosity, who's using data flows here, and what's everyone's view on the whole you've got one person can access them at any given time. You have to take ownership of them. I love it, but so many people I speak to, they go, well, it doesn't make any sense. I always think of it from the old days with steam trains and stuff, or when you've got single track trains, you have a physical key that somebody has to have to be driving a train on there. And we had a big train crash up in, I think it was the northeast. And the rich landowner said, well, this is stupid. Let's just duplicate the key and give the say, why did they have a crash? So anyway, so we bring through from this SharePoint files participation is what it's called. We go in the edit table. So I've got some old stuff and some new stuff, and you can see I've been really lazy and used the simple transformation that it provides, where you just say combine it and it writes the function. I was lazy, and then you go and edit that function. I think this is SharePoint all is where we start with this. And we can let's start with where's the source? Yeah, SharePoint all. Okay. So SharePoint all is going to that SharePoint site, pulling all the files together. But again, it's just the metadata that's being pulled. So there's nothing being pulled yet. So we just got here's a list of files. And then what do I need to do with it? So for the participation side, we're filtering it down to get where it's event hyphen. If I zoom in a bit with that, you make it easier. Let's see. Is that legible? Is that okay? We're removing excess columns, so we end up with just our binary data, the file name, and the location ID, which is coming from which is that SharePoint list that we've got, where this Jesmond Dene is location number 1 because it's the best parkrun in the world. All other parkruns should kind of be as good as ours. Extracting out the event number, which is basically pulling together an event key. So we think we've got a location, and then for their event number 1, event number 2, event number 3. So we've got kind of a location code underscore what was the event number. That's all we're really doing with that. Although we're just pulling the number there, and then we're building that together to make a key. Yeah, E key here. We go. Filter hidden, which is of course just the step that they always put in about what you do. And then it's this transformation step. So this is the function that's written, and you can see the function in here. So when you follow it and get it to do the function, okay, it gives you the transform sample file here. You can go in and do and update that. So you can see I've added lots of steps in here, and this is then the next one, and that automatically then folds those back into that function rather than having to go into the function and write code and go, right, does this work? So you can see what's happening. So fundamentally for each of them, it's going through and doing that. So then when we go back to here, and we are transform column, it's invoke custom function, sorry. You're looking at how lazy I am. I haven't even renamed the functions. It's just terrible. But you'll see once this loads, effectively you've got a table of tables. So column, which is just, there's a full table each one, and then just expanding them out, and then you've got everything you want. So for here, as I say, you'll see we've got a full table of data that's all processed, structured correctly, and then it's just a really simple expansion from there. And there's not really any more steps that are needed for it. That's the way to handle Excel spreadsheets when you're doing that many. And this, as I say, nearly 20,000. We're going to cross the 20,000 barrier before the end of the year. So it's not big and it's not clever doing this. Honestly, this is kind of like really misspent youth, we'd say, if I was young. But yeah, so it's that way. And then from there, we're just taking the distinct list of Parkrun IDs from the 2 separate SharePoint, separate data flows to build a column. And then from there, we're building out the people table and then a people and events, because I think people want to know what's your slowest time in an event, your quickest time, your finish position, your best finish position, your worst finish position, all those kind of things. People want to know. But if you, and then that's where it comes down to an efficiency. When you've got nearly 2 million rows of data, going through and writing the DAX to calculate those dynamically on the fly versus we've built a table for it, it's quicker to have the table ready. Noticing as well from my side, we come back out of here, we look at our Parkrun's report, I'll cancel this. And of course, you know, if you cancel it, it doesn't erase your data flow. Of course, everyone knows data flows. Once you save and close, you've got the recipe. There's no data though. It's empty. The amount of times I get calls about that. I've done the data flow. Why is it nothing there? We come back here. So one of the things we've got is obviously tooltips for everything, but it's always about the pace of those. So for some of these tooltips, should we produce an aggregation table to speed up the generation of those tooltips? So it's one of the things that back in the day, 10 years ago when Power BI first came out, I remember being, Microsoft goes, what we do is we generate the tooltips on the fly, whereas Tableau pre-renders them all. Yeah, that was one of the selling points, which is great until suddenly you're going, well, it takes 3 or 4 seconds for the tooltip to come up. So again, business logic that goes along with this, developing your tooltips, your aggregation models, it's all part of the lifecycle development of it. And there's always going to be a list of things. So we've mentioned, haven't we, that the volunteers list, so that's not right, it still breaks. We should really get rid of all these folders. We've now said, potentially we should put in an aggregation model for this. And that was just on a talk. That's terrible. Could you imagine my list of users for this coming back with a list of issues they've got? There was a bug I found even when I was testing it this morning that I hadn't fixed one of the functions on it, or one of the DAX measures. So if you go to people, it currently goes to the default page as opposed to the right one for the event. I fixed it on the train, but I haven't uploaded it yet. But all these things that happen, and that's the real world of Power BI developers, isn't it? It's not just we've got the list of we need to get the sexy data in. We've got all these things. Everyone happy? Yeah? You're taking my time. Okay. The last topic, we're going to have to be a bit of a rushed topic here. So one of the things that I really love, I have to say, I've got to really like it now, but it's one, every time I've had conversations with clients on it, they just, I don't get it. I don't know what's the point in this. So is anybody using metrics within Power BI? They haven't even looked at metrics in Power BI. Okay, so metrics give you like nothing when you first look. It's like, this is the most pointless thing in the world. Why on earth would I put any time, effort, or love into it? Okay, completely get it. One of the good things, so I've put it into the report. There's a link on here. It says if you actually look on the public report, because of security, these don't come through in a public report. Okay, but this is on the new V5, so it's just starting out. It updates every time the semantic model updates. It records it. Microsoft have now exposed as well the semantic model for the scorecard. So you can actually go through and do more with it as well, bring new Power BI content around to it, potentially bring it into Fabric. So anyway, there's lots you could do with it. One of the things I like about it, and I was talking about with Lewis just when he was saying with his UDS side, it'd be great if we could put the comments in. Because at the moment, we can check it in. So I can just click and it'll take me to the report. I can then check in an event to say, well, this has happened at such and such a time. So I can put a note in, this is great. And I can spell. I can choose to overwrite whatever the status is and I can save it. But again, we've got those hard coded. So this, well, what's the point in that? Who still uses PowerPoint in their business to actually do their monthly report packs? Yeah. So I've got this brilliant new tool, Power BI, but then we actually go and cut and paste it and put it into PowerPoint. You can do all that, bring these live in with the comments into a PowerPoint. You can use the tools to programmatically get out as well using Power Automate to get out the comments, so the latest comment as well, to then put those as separate text strings that you can then put on your slide decks. Okay, there's lots we can do with it, and it's probably something I'll be doing an awful lot more of in the next season, which is about to start, because we've now finished Jesmond Dene Parkrun expansions. Not doing any more for a while, but I'm unfortunately going to have to probably use this data set because it's such a rich data set for it. But we're going to be focusing on Power BI from a business perspective as opposed to from a developer perspective. But yeah, the scorecard side of that. So this is a simple one that started. The other data set that I use regularly, okay, or that I've built, was England food hygiene. So, you know, scores on the doors. everywhere. So we pull through England food hygiene for every food establishment in England. It's only England at the moment because Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland have slightly different scoring criteria. So we could do them quite easily, but then it would be like, I don't think the audience would understand, well, why are Scotland scores this as opposed to whatever they are. But I've got the scorecard for it here. So we can see for the Northwest, where we are now, the food hygiene overall, day by day, every time it's updated, automatically populates there. So I haven't had to do anything. It's just there. I've written a Power App that allows us to go in and add comments. We can use Power Automate to chase up. So we know that, hey, Ross, you need to add your comments once a month. Here's your list of outstanding comments. So I'm not then having to chase whoever it is to get their comments every month to put into the board pack. But when you first set them up, as I say, when we go back to here, we've just got a couple of days in. It looks a bit naff, doesn't it? Just got 2 data points. When you first start, you just got one, it's just a dot. And you try and explain to the board, this is really good. So I would say, experiment with these, start putting them in, leave them running for a while, and actually go back after a month or so on something that refreshes every day and see, oh, actually, I can see how this would work. Because once you start to use them and put in place your continual service improvement plans, anything like that, when you're saying, oh, we're going to do this and it's going to update sales by, you can put it all in there and it just tracks it. And then 6 months later, when the board goes, well, what happened about that? Well, it's still been running. I haven't had to do anything. Yeah? Who's going to give it a go? Yeah. It's definitely, it's one of those things, as I say, I think it's the most underused element of Power BI for what it does. But just every time I talk about it, I get really excited and the audience just goes, what? Why did you want that? Okay. But yeah, we'll be able to track as well. Parkrun is on there as well. So we, can really see just how good Jesmond Dene is. We've got 17 or 18 videos on YouTube, people running around our parkrun. If you want to go, none of them are from me. Okay. Yeah. Any questions on metrics? No? I give up with metrics. I don't know. I'm going to get someone to go, wow, these are amazing. But yeah, so far, I don't know. So thank you very much then.